Welcome, all of you, to the Startup Impact Summit, the Growth Impact Stage. In this section, we are going to have a panel discussion, AgriTech from dust to digital. We are incredibly happy to have Marc and Tahmid as our speaker, and the panel will be moderated by Pierre today. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming the panelists.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Good morning, everybody. This is Pierre here, Pierre Rousseau. I'm talking to you from Lisbon. So this demonstrates we are internationally represented here. And I think we will discuss about AgriTech. AgriTech is, I think, a very important part of tech. The two words are extremely important. And I will share the thoughts here with some good friends and Marc. So Marc, maybe you can introduce yourself and then Tahmid.
Yes, good morning or good afternoon to all of you. Marc Castagnet, I'm based in Hong Kong. I'm talking to you from Hong Kong, and Hong Kong and China have been my home for the last 30 years. I'm a social impact entrepreneur. I have two, even three of my investment or participation in agriculture, mainly organic food, organic eggs and organic rice pasta, and also helping farmers to improve their livelihoods.
Thank you, Marc. And Tahmid, your introduction.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tahmid. I've been working as the head of growth and partnership in iFarmer. iFarmer is a digital agriculture platform. We have been working to solve financial problems for farmers, as well as connecting them with proper market for getting better price. So we are on the total ecosystem of agriculture in Bangladesh.
Thank you, Tahmid. And so, just to finalize the introduction, so I'm working now as a sustainable advisor for BNP Paribas, the French bank and the European bank. And I will be pleased at the beginning to give you 5 minutes about what is agri, what is tech, and give you figures. Because when we have to talk about agri-tech, we need to get some figures and a little bit of data in mind. And first of all, just to explain that it's quite clear that the food, and everybody has followed for a long time what we call the farmer to the fork concept. The food is really something which has been changing, but we have also to think that agriculture is not only food, but sometimes it could be also textile, or it could be paper, or it could be even biofuel. Here, what I would like to explain first is that, number one, food production represents only 3% of the GDP in the world. That's why sometimes people don't pay attention to the size. And just to remember, on the other side, there are 3.4 billion people living around that, and 2 billion people are making the life out of the agriculture today. And here we focus on agriculture on land. I'm not even including the people living on the sea. We're talking about 900 million directly employed. There are 570 million farms in the world. So just to create is a mass issue. Agriculture is a mass issue. We have most of the time in mind that is a big land that we have in the United States, and we believe agriculture is mainly industrial. Yes, it is industrial, but it's also becoming simply important for smallholders. And just keep it more smallholders, you need to realize that 90% of the farm are run by individual people, and not only in the developing countries, but also in the developed countries. What's going on in the perspective that we foreseen, thanks to the climate change also, and what's going on? First of all, population will continue to grow, and we know that in 2050 we will be around 9.5 billion. We know also that agriculture is something very special about climate change and biodiversity, because we know that the agriculture is destroying a lot of biodiversity and is creating a lot of problem of climate change. But we know also that it could be the solution to it. So this is what makes agriculture very specific. We know that crops will suffer because of climate change, and we know also that a lot of people will move to the urban cities. So very important to keep those figures in mind, because we will talk about agriculture, but agriculture could be the smallholders, could be industrial agriculture, but it could be also very soon what we can develop in the cities, because more people will live there. So there will be different trends for agriculture, and then we can see that the AgriTech can help in many different things, in productivity, in energy weights, on the local communities, on the way that we can find alternative proteins, especially insect, for instance, or seaweed that has been probably an alternative solution. Regenerating nature is becoming important because, as I mentioned before, agriculture can play a very important role in terms of carbon sequestration. And the nature of the soil, the use of the water, all this is extremely important, and this is where the technology can help. What is also very important is that the people are thinking about landscape and not more about commodities. So the business model of extracting resources from the land is also changing. So this will have implication on many different things. It's about the supply chain. So we have to think not only about the production, but we have to revisit completely the supply chain, because it will be affected by circular economy and the need about doing traceability of the goods. Why traceability of the goods? Because the buyer at the end of the chain wants to be more and more controlling what they are eating, because health is becoming an important also driver on the way that we would like to access food. What is important, COVID has probably accelerated those trends. So we can see that there will be more and more disruption about the different way that this supply chain will work. And the need for health is becoming bigger and bigger. So that means the way that we would like to do the traceability will increase. So what it means that there are new activities about agriculture, agroforestry, which is about integrating with the forest, regenerating agriculture, when we pay attention to regenerate the soil and we prevent to use a fertilizer, or at least chemical fertilizer. Integrating farming, when we are using more and more the farming in their own environment and close. So is the case for the cities. So you can see that it can impact, AgriTech by different way. New type of technology, a lot of biotechnology, new farming system, alternative protein, bioenergy, packaging, all this can influence tremendously the way that we operate the value chain of the agriculture. But also, very important, the digital and the use of data. More and more we can measure, we can analyze, we can control, we can get data either from the sky, when we use more and more satellite in order to assess what we can do, or on the other side, the traceability and the need to measure an impact. So whatever you want to do in agriculture, every expertise in technology is needed. And this is what we will try to get with our guest today. And my first question maybe to Marc is that, what is AgriTech critical and important for you? Why do you think this is something that is a trend for the future?
Thank you, Pierre, and thank you for all those data, because when you look at the 3% of the economy and employing directly about 1 billion people, another 1 billion depending on it, it shows that, and that's one of the first things where AgriTech can help, is to improve the livelihood of the people. And how AgriTech can improve the livelihood of the people? It can improve into, first of all, empowering farmers, empowering them with data, empowering them about their rights, their land rights, their business rights. There are many companies, organizations, NGO in India who are helping farmers to know their rights in order to yield more money on their income and to diminish a little bit the role of intermediaries. So, I mean, maybe it sounds kind of far away from AgriTech, but it's not, because data and the different platforms that are existing, that are multiplying today, allow, empower the farmers to improve their livelihood and their purchasing power and their income. And once they have this, they can bring their children to school, and then their children obviously can have a bigger improvement and share also on the business of their parents. AgriTech also, it's a huge influence on the environment. As Pierre just mentioned, data, images can help everything linked to the weather, the solar, the wind, encatchment of water. So AgriTech and the environment and everything linked to all the diverse factors that agriculture is using is there again to provide the necessary information to improve the yield, to improve the way agriculture is done, and also to improve the different tools that some of the tools given by the data allow the farmer for a very cheap cost to have better data at their disposal and to improve their yield. The third aspect is all about product. The AgriTech allow new product to come up or new things like algae that are at hand for people to use more because those products that are already existing needs to be better innovated, better controlled, better harvested, and as a source of replacement for other commodities. And lastly, AgriTech can help us to improve the health of the consumer, also for the farmers, controlling, tracking, tracing, and also show to the consumer what is healthy or what can be damageable to their health. So in a quick nutshell, Pierre, that will be my comments on the capabilities of AgriTech.
Yeah, thank you, Marc. A very interesting point, and this brings me to Tahmid. Tahmid, you are on the ground and you are close to the farmers. So tell us a little bit what is for you so important to have this AgriTech to the people, reconciling probably the traditional farming with the technology. What it means for you, what it means for your business, what it means for the farmers.
Yeah. We have been working on the agriculture ground for almost 10 years now. So technology integration in agriculture, like countries like Bangladesh, is very, very important. Considering the biggest fact, I would say, it's informed decision making. For that, technology can help the farmers a lot to make more better use of the resources, which is very important. So what is the problem that's been mostly faced is as countries like Bangladesh, it's very prompt to a lot of climate changes, a lot of floods are happening. So in that case, actually farmers need to make more informed decisions. So even the production mapping, they need technology support. technology can be very cheap. We are working on that ground, and technology can help to build an ecosystem which can, the farmer will be more benefited regarding their production, their market, and understanding the demand for consumer is very important. So what happens is farmers don't usually understand the perception of the consumers. So a lot of production is being wasted. So in that case, technology can be a good option to let them know about the production system. So as well as transportation. In that case, in countries like Bangladesh, the farmers, what they face the most is to transport production to the end market on a regular basis. But there are a couple of very good options out there. You can the farmer can actually go for transporting their production using technology, and it's a very easy process. So yeah, and on the other ground, traceability is more important. The consumers wants to know about what they're going to what they need, and if farmer gets proper information regarding that, they can make better production, as well as the technology can enable the whole ecosystem for supply chain as well. So it's more about the production system. If we consider Bangladesh is self-sufficient in production, food production, but what happens, we have not been able to export. So understanding the international buyer demand, considering the production capabilities of the farmers, if we can integrate that with technology, the whole ecosystem can be better and farmers can get better price for their production, for their efforts.
Okay, thank you, Tahmid. Very interesting, and this linked me again to a question to Marc. As you are in your business and in the initiative that you have taken, could you give us some example of the impact of AgriTech that you have already foreseen and experience, and maybe also give us an idea, where do you see tech people moving, and where do you see the next needs about AgriTech for your direct business or for your direct initiative that you are leading?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the impact of AgriTech, for example, now we are capable by analyzing the weather, especially, I mean, our impact company for organic egg is based in Thailand. And as you know, they are the wet season, and during the wet season, our yield is going down a lot for our eggs and our farmers. So if we are capable to anticipate the weather, and we are working with the local university or the disease, obviously we are going to improve our yield, and which will mean more money for our farmers. I'm involved also with people in the wine industry, and AgriTech for them is very important when they can harvest the grapes, and through imageries by satellite, parcel by parcel, every morning they will look at the satellite images, and they will be able to say, okay, today I'm going to harvest purely based on the picture of the leaves and the color of the chlorophyll. They will be able to deduct and say this is the right moment to harvest the grapes. So, I mean, and there are so many examples where data and imageries are deeply influencing the knowledge and the way, the method of improving or yielding agriculture. What is the next frontier, and what is the next? I mean, it's basically artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence you have all those data that is aggregated left and right. But today people are building algorithm where almost the human interaction is going to be very limited, and the farmers or the people related to agriculture will have a full data analysis and different scenarios that will come up to them, and that will be a great help in order to improve the yield, but also the environmental consequences of agriculture.
Thank you, Marc. And Tahmid, one question for you here. What are the challenges that you are facing, and where do you see them the most? Is it in the technology, in the funding, the way to find the money, the way to find the technology? Can you tell us a little bit about that, and give us also your view on or what do you expect next in your existing business?
Okay, so for developing, like as Marc mentioned, for developing any algorithm or using technology to make farmers make better decisions, is very important to get access to data. And in countries like Bangladesh, we usually don't get most of the data in a proper manner. So we need to work on collection of data. And for implementing the technology, we need to educate the farmers first. And mostly farmers in countries like Bangladesh, they are not that much tech savvy. So it requires a lot of efforts to make them understand the technology at the very first place. They do understand the impact it can have. They can make better production. They can get better price for their efforts. But it's a continuous process to educate them on the technology arena.
Do you believe that there are enough people focusing on technology in the agribusiness, or we do need to have more people being focused on this?
Okay, so no, they do understand the value for technology at the very first place, but it's the most important perception is they really don't know how to utilize the technology. Okay, so making them to utilize that, we need to work on their capabilities for managing the technology. Okay, so that's a continuous process, but people are changing their perception. They are more into learning new things. A lot of production process has been changed in the last couple of years. A lot of new practices are there. People usually do not have proper data to control their production. So it was more about a manual process now. Now people are using technologies to understand what kind of crops or what kind of harvesting process they should know utilize to do the production. So it's a changing process. It's changing. It's happening, and I'm like confident that it will be people will be get accustomed with this situation very soon.
Yes, Marc, what do you think? Do you think that we have enough people in the tech environment which is focusing on agriculture, or do we need to have more people involved in that area?
I mean, obviously, as we have seen in our earlier conversation, there are so many different branches of AgriTech. So if you look at purely product innovation, there is huge funding and a huge number of people. For example, people want to find a replacement for meat, beyond meat and everything. So there you have a lot of money and a lot of people and resources. But when we start to talk about algorithm to help the base of the pyramid farmers, then there is obviously not enough people and not enough money there, because, like you mentioned, it's only 3% of the world economic output versus a bigger number of people. So for me, that's where organizations like UNDP or the Rockefeller Foundation, all those organizations can really help to bring resources and again the algorithm and the AI and all the different platforms that are going to curate and put people in contact. I don't think there is enough resources and money, and that's where the effort should be, just to empower the people. Because our role, for me, is to empower the communities, not to give them money, to empower them and to allow them to have the means to have those platforms, those data, those algorithms that they can make their better decision.
Thank you, Marc. And Tahmid, what is your future and the perspective of AgriTech in your side, seen from what you're doing?
Okay, so we are working on an app which can help the farmers to make more informed decisions. So what we are currently doing is monitoring the whole pattern of production. Okay, so this allows us to get enough data to suggest them a better production system for the very coming days. So we are on the collection of data stage right now, and we are developing a couple of IoT devices starting from cattle, so that we can literally track the cattle at the very first place, because in countries like Bangladesh, we are also working, we are also developing the export meat market at a very large scale. So for that, the traceability is very important. So we are currently working on that, as well as we have started working on the vegetable and fruits production arena. And we are working on a device which can help farmers to make better decisions through weather forecasting and soil mapping. So it's more about a farmer can actually know what decision he should make just by exactly saying the data, so they can get more. It's more about developing the farmer's capacity to make more informed decisions. So we are working on devices right now. We are as well as collecting data for better developing our algorithm, which will work on this particular region at the highest possible success rate.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing. Just to give a practical example we had, and something not in AI or algorithm, but much more practical. We wanted for the feed of our organic chicken, we wanted to develop another commodity to replace corn, because corn prices was going up and down. So we have been looking at insects, and we just realized after a lot of research that insects cost was still higher than the corn. But obviously, if we find the right people with the right laboratory, probably the insect cost can become lower than corn. So obviously, we will move towards that. But you know, at that moment, and maybe those things have been evolved during the last 6 months, because we only look at this a year ago. But that's a very typical example where research and cooperation between organization and companies and farmers can make the switch. Because if we can switch from insect versus corn, but you know, there is also going to be environmental impact also.
Thank you, Marc. And if we have to summarize this conversation in few words, Tahmid, or you will summarize it, and I will ask the same question to you, Marc, so at least you can be prepared. So, Tahmid.
Yeah. Agriculture production at the very first place is changing. The change is happening. A lot of new technologies are coming up, and we are running out of our natural resources. So it's the time to make better use of our existing resources and integrate technology to make the best out of our existing resource. So yeah, and in countries like Bangladesh, I would say it's very important to get them accustomed with the technology. So we can ensure, because our food production system is very well established on the natural side. If we can integrate technology on that, we can have better production, and maybe we can work on the export side, because food security, it's more about a global crisis. Maybe one country cannot solve it, but collaboration and partnership alongside utilizing technology can solve a bigger challenge.
Thank you. Marc?
Yeah, I mean, the first two words that came to my mind was fascinating and exciting, because when I look what was happening 10 years ago, only 10 years ago, and what's happening now, there has been huge leap forward. So personally, I'm looking forward, and I try to be aware of every single new things that are happening in the AgriTech space. The second word that comes to mind is collaboration. I know everybody talk about collaboration, and the word is used and used and used again. But today, if we want to make the best use of everything, because as you said at the beginning of the presentation, is a collation of multiple things. It's very complex. So the more complex things are, the better you will reach your goals. If there are collaborations with a big S at the end, because that's the only way to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And the last thing is speed. Speed, because as I mentioned in my first point, it's a huge leap forward, but it's also speed because of the COVID, because of what's just happened, and also speed because everything that is coming to us, even in terms of technology, we talk about AI, but AI, the speed will go much faster than we ever can imagine in the next 5 years. Thank you.
I can only agree more with you, Marc. I think the collective is the only way to go, and the collective between people that never talked to each other before. We're talking about, for instance, bankers, United Nations, NGOs, foundation, and definitely IT solution and IT people. And I do believe that we will see, and this is important point, we will see the tech company and the big tech company being more and more involved in and coming on in addition of the different startups. So you will see the big players, especially from California and from China, developing massive structure, especially on the way to manage big data, which is very important from the sky, but also on Earth. So that's one thing important. The second thing I would like to say is that we are driven by also the pressure on climate change, biodiversity loss, and as you mentioned clearly, both of you, what I call inclusion of the local communities, because if we want to achieve what we call security for food or security for resources, because there are also resources involved, it's clear that we need to involve the local communities, and we need to make sure that the local communities are getting out of poverty. If not, we cannot achieve. This is why there is some transformation process in the supply chain traceability is coming. This is why also the development of landscape is growing. So more and more you see that the people don't take the commodity off like that, but they are developing landscape program in order to make sure that on the ground we take care about other things than just producing food, but also taking care of the local communities, the energy that is needed, the way to do the first level processing sometimes also, because sometimes we just extract the goods and we forget about the value on the ground remain very low. So we need to create more value on the ground if we want the security to stay for a long time. And last but not least, we need to use technology in order to make it easier, because educating 2 billion people without technology is not possible. So today is because we will create a smallholder platform. We teach them about finance, but also about the education of productivity, or even simple education sometimes of what to do. It's the future, and without technology, it's impossible to reach the fragmentation of that industry, because this industry is massively fragmented. And if we want to make sure that we collect it, only the technology and the big data can do that. So I think the acceleration that Marc mentioned is a fact, and it will continue to accelerate. Food as becoming one of the key things, and access to resources. It will be completed what the ocean is also producing. Marc mentioned the algae. We mentioned also the insect aspect. This is developing massively across, and we do see a lot of initiative around that. So I can only say, to conclude, that AgriTech is definitely a business for the future, and it's only the beginning of this journey. So I would like to thank the two friends here for the participation and the wise comment. And I hope that we have demonstrated to all people listening to us that AgriTech is definitely a core development, and it will create a massive number of jobs in the future. This is definitely, if some other area are suffering, this is definitely one of the areas which is developing massively with the big needs, and across all communities and across all the countries and regions. So thank you for participating to this event, and we're pleased probably to come back next year by telling you more about AgriTech and the way that we have progressed. Thank you, everybody.